Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at virginiafarmbureau.com.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all of the wonderful products we enjoy, brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. With the new administration, Virginia farmers are looking forward to new political challenges. Many disabled people would love to garden, and there are tools to make it easier for them. And the new chairman of the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation Women's Committee is continuing a family tradition. Welcome back, everyone. We're coming to you from the state capital of Virginia, where there will be plenty of political debate over the next several weeks. Down the road a bit, Washington, D.C., where our 45th President Donald Trump will be sworn into office this month. As Norm Hyde reports, Virginia farmers will be watching the new administration closely to see if some long-standing problems can be solved.
Most pollsters and the pundits expected Democrat Hillary Clinton to win the presidency, so Donald Trump's victory last fall was a surprise to many rural Virginians and the media. Virginia political analyst Dr. Bob Holsworth told Virginia Farm Bureau members at their annual convention last November that rural Virginians voted solidly in favor of the Republican ticket. They joined millions of other rural Americans and voters from Rust Belt communities seeking a change from politics as usual.
And so that different composition, and in particular, the rural vote and the vote out of the manufacturing communities was very, very important to Donald Trump. So if you look at the end result of the election, you'd have to say that Trump owes an awful lot to rural America.
American Farm Bureau Federation President Zippy Duvall also spoke to Virginia Farm Bureau members, saying he expects Trump to listen to the concerns of rural America.
We know that rural America brought you here, and that is a tremendous asset that we're going to set on and remind him of, and I think that he cares about rural America.
Duvall said farmers are expecting common sense regulations out of Washington in the future, particularly when it comes to the environment. The Farm Bureau has been arguing against what it feels are overreaching water regulations for several years, saying federal agencies don't have the authority to pass these rules, and that farmers are already doing a great deal to protect the environment.
And I know that you're in the Chesapeake Bay area, and I know how critical that has been, how burdensome it has been. I know how difficult it is. I know that you're all out there doing these best management practices. A lot of them are not being recognized. Hopefully we can bring some common sense to that.
What else can farmers expect from a Trump administration? Both Holsworth and Duvall says it will probably be a mixed bag, with the new president agreeing on some issues and disagreeing on others, particularly the proposed Trans-Pacific Partnership Treaty.
In terms of issues like EPA regulation, estate tax issues, tax reform issues, and Obamacare, my guess is that that Trump agenda is going to be pretty consistent with what rural America has endorsed for quite some time.
I do know that he does business all around the world. And I do know that he knows that American agriculture can't survive if we don't have access to those other markets and tear down those barriers. Now, whether it's TPP or Trump TPP or whatever it might be called, I think that Mr. Trump's going to realize the importance of trade to agriculture, and I think we'll have a trade treaty.
Farmers have been asking for reforms for the alien guest worker program for years, warning valuable crops are being lost because there aren't enough farm workers. With Trump campaigning to close the Mexican border to illegal immigrants, the odds of guest worker reform happening soon are low. But Duvall believes Trump will at least listen to farmer concerns.
They said, we can't agree with you on what you want, but what we'll tell you is we don't know what the solution is yet. But we will have agriculture at the table when we solve that problem.
Looking to the next political race, Holsworth says the Republican Party has a solid chance to win the governor's office in Virginia this year. He praised Farm Bureau for focusing on rural economic development, no matter which party is in office. And he predicts the wild political ride isn't over yet, at least for Virginia voters in 2017.
Like it or not, there are only 2 gubernatorial elections in the country, here in New Jersey. This is going to be perhaps the initial referendum on Donald Trump.
No matter which way the political winds blow, Farm Bureau members plan to continue doing what they do best, feeding Virginia and the world. In Hot Springs, Virginia, I'm Norm Hyde.
The Virginia Farm Bureau Federation has been lobbying for farmers at the state and federal level for 90 years. Ever since the 1930s, the federal farm bill has been a major priority since it sets farm policy and spending guidelines every 5 years out of Washington. Farmers believe that there needs to be some sort of financial safety net for agriculture, like crop insurance. And how much money is spent on food stamps and federal feeding programs is always a contentious debate. That's because those programs represent the majority of the Farm Bill's budget.
Hi, today we're going to be talking about ergonomic tools for the garden from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
From our farms to your table. Virginia dairy farm families are dedicated to providing your family with nutritious, high-quality milk.
I'm Dan Myers, a 5th-generation dairy farmer from Virginia.
I'm Roy Vanderhyde, a 1st-generation dairy farmer from Virginia.
I'm Gerald Heatwool, a 3rd-generation dairy farmer from Virginia.
I am dedicated to dairy, my cows,
My milk,
and our land.
Handicapped gardeners often find it hard to perform heavy labor. Chris Mullins with Virginia Cooperative Extension offers some suggestions on how to keep them active from the ground up.
Hi, today we're talking about ergonomic tools that you might be able to use in your garden. And we're here with Joe Young. Joe's with AgrAbility Virginia. Hey Joe, how are you?
Fine, Chris. How you doing today?
Fine. Thanks for coming out here and talking with us today about some tools in your program. What does AgrAbility do?
AgrAbility is a program that's funded by USDA through land-grant universities. Virginia Tech is at land-grant university in Virginia.
Okay.
And the program is implemented through a service agency, which is Easter Seals. So it's a joint effort between Tech and Easter Seals in terms of reaching out to the farming community, but we also work with gardeners who have limitations as well.
Gotcha. So it's not just for farmers, although you work with farmers with combines and big equipment, but you also, a lot of the tools we're going to talk about today are adaptable to anybody that's gardening.
Anybody that's gardening, which is a aspect of farming.
Right.
Yeah.
And so people that might have a disability or have gotten older or some sort of limitation, some of these can help them with some of those things.
Oh yes, can help tremendously. This is an ergonomic tool, which means a tool that's different than the kind of tools that you normally would find on the market.
Okay.
And they are designed specifically with people who have limitations.
Okay.
For example, if you had a problem with your joints and your wrist,
right,
you use this type of adaptation
right
with this tool, where you slide that on and it keeps your arm straight and your wrist straight, which takes the pressure off your joints.
And then that cuff would be adaptable to all these different types of tools that we have
yes,
here.
It would be adaptable to all of them. Some of them are longer handle,
right,
because you would use longer handle tools for certain operations,
right,
and then some have shorter handles because you use shorter tools in other settings.
That makes sense, and I can see that with this right here. This is kind of a relatively short tool, but you were telling me earlier this just opens up and extends.
Yes, this is a telescopic hoe and rake.
Right.
And so what you do, if maybe someone is sitting and working, so they don't have to have a long reach,
right,
so you can just adapt this and pull it in and use it as a short handle tool.
And then I see this here, it's got kind of a long handle. This is for getting rid of weeds, right? Kind of moving it back and forth.
Yes, yeah.
But I noticed you were showing me earlier, this comes off here, this handle.
It comes off, yes.
And then again, that can go on a trowel to make it a longer handle.
Right.
Or some of these other cultivators, even a rake. And I see this one here, like we talked about before with that cup, but it's built into this.
That's built in, so you don't have to add anything to it.
Right.
Just go in and
So something, if somebody had carpal tunnel, some of these kind of things would help them with
Yes,
that.
it would help a great deal.
Well, I see you also have a long-handled piece for this, those same ends right here.
Yes, which will give you a greater reach. It's also easy on your back, so you can use any of these tools on this longer handle, and you can stand and take pressure off your back as you reach out. So it keeps you from bending and keep the pressure off your knees.
Joe, for some people, getting up and down, mobility that way is difficult. What kind of things do you use in that situation to help growers?
Yeah, there are different things that you can use. For example, this is one of the tools that you can use, which is a gardening tool that you can sit on, a gardening cot, and it has directional movement where you can
steer the wheels, basically.
Go in the direction you would like. You can sit in one spot and work.
Right.
Which makes a difference because a lot of people have knee problems, hip problems, or back problems, and problems getting up and down.
That makes sense.
So that's one of the tools that's available.
I see one here. It's a seat, kind of lightweight, that you can just sit on and scoot it real quick and move around the garden.
It's very lightweight, and because people don't have the ability to lift heavier things.
Right.
And so this makes a difference in terms of how they're able to work with the tools.
And I noticed this is something you could sit on or kneel, maybe even you can turn this over and kneel on it.
You can turn it over and kneel on it. It becomes a kneeler for people who have back problems, hip problems.
Right.
And they can kneel and do the work. If they want to use it as a seat, you can turn it up the other way, and then you can sit on it.
Right.
And also work with your tools from a sitting position. These tools are available at local hardware stores, some of them. Others you can find online by going online and Googling online, and you'll find the vendors out there that specialize in these particular tools.
Great. Thanks so much for talking with us again today, Joe. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, Chris.
Well, for more information about tools for the garden, contact your local county extension office and talk to a master gardener. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins. We'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.
Virginia oysters make a great dish for family or friends. Chef John Maxwell has an easy recipe for them with a special secret ingredient coming up next in the heart of the home. Virginia's oyster industry has been on the rebound for several years, and that's good news because Chef John Maxwell loves to prepare them with a secret ingredient in the heart of the home.
Hi, welcome to Heart of the Home. I'm Chef John Maxwell, and we're here at Meadow Hall in Meadow Event Park, and we're going to be playing with a couple of really nice Virginia food products today. We're going to start out with some parsnips, and we're going to move into oysters. Oysters and parsnips are a very, very good combination. I've got some parsnips in here boiling, but I'm going to talk to you about them out here. This is what a parsnip looks like. It looks very much like a carrot. It's white all the way through. Let me peel it off. You see that I take this little tan skin off of it. All right. It's white and it's very sweet. Very sweet. So I diced this up, and I've got it in that water, just parsnip and water, boiling down till it's soft, right? And now I'm going to mash them. Okay, I just got some of the water out of it. I'm going to add a little bit of heavy cream. What I'm trying to do is add a little fat into here, because fat is our friend. Right? And now I'm going to mash it up with a wire whip. Now you can get this as smooth as you want to. If you've got a little hand mixer or a blender or a food processor, you want to put this in it, you can make it really, really smooth. The texture of an oyster, which is going to go on top of this, works really well with a little bit of chunk in this, so gives it a nice mouthfeel. So I'm not going to mash it up too much. So I'm going to set this over here, right? And I'm going to take a little saute pan, add a little bit of oil to it. This is just vegetable oil. I've got some flour in here. I'm going to season the flour with salt and pepper. Get that mixed up good. Now I've got some oysters. I'm going to bread these oysters. I'm going to bread a few of these. Now, a good oyster, if you're going to fry it, right, you shouldn't put too much breading on it. A lot of people will get them a real thick cracker meal coating, something like that. And I like just a little bit of seasoned flour. Now, if you want to be a real traditionalist, you can put a little bit of Old Bay seasoning in the flour. But I like the flavor of the oyster to come through. That's nice and hot. I'm going to add a little bit of butter to it. I use oil and butter because I want the flavor of the butter, but I don't want it to burn. So I add the oil to it, and that raises the smoking point a little bit. Now that it's hot, I'm just going to go in with these oysters. You don't want to put too many in at the same time because I don't want to drop the temperature of the fat too quickly. We're going to let that go for a little longer. And now, I don't usually tell you how much of everything to go in while I'm on camera here, but you can get the accurate recipes by going to chefjohnmaxwell.com, and you can print out or just read off the recipes from there. And you can also find out a lot of other stuff about me up there. Now, the oysters, the breading on the oysters is absorbing some of this fat, so we need to be careful about making sure that it doesn't absorb too much at the time. So I'm going to add just a little bit more in there. So what's happening is as the oyster cooks, it gives off water, and the water goes out into the fat, and that lowers the temperature, makes it more difficult for it to brown. So you have to be careful about that. Got these parsnips here. Now I'm going to take and put some of this parsnip down on this plate. Nice and golden brown. You don't want to get them too dark. Now these are going to come out and go across that parsnip. And the sweetness and the soft texture of the parsnip is going to balance out really nicely with the crispy coating and the soft center of the oysters. Now I'm going to take a little bit of butter, add it back into here, melt that down, just finish this sauce off a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice, some capers, which is a little pickled flower bud from the Mediterranean, right, and some chopped parsley. Stir this around. You can see how the butter now has started to make a little sauce here. If I don't get it too hot, that'll be a nice little butter sauce. And this is going to go over top of my oysters. Got that there. I'm going to just pop a little bit of parsley on there to give it some color. And we're ready. And we don't even have to serve this with a lemon because we put a little lemon juice in there. So there we go. Got a fried oyster on parsnip puree. Perfect. Every week we make recipes using great Virginia-grown food. We make them in our kitchen so you can make them in your kitchen. Join us next week on Heart of the Home when we get to play with more great Virginia food.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on Chef Maxwell's website, chefjohnmaxwell.com. Virginia is quickly becoming known as the oyster capital of the East Coast. There are now 8 official regions where oysters are raised and sold, each giving this aquatic treat a unique flavor. Almost 40 million oysters were sold in 2014 in the Old Dominion, and several regional restaurants now focus on oysters and other seafood. The total dockside value for Virginia oysters in 2014 was more than $33.8 million, the largest amount in a generation. Much of Virginia's oyster harvest now comes from private aquaculture operations. In fact, the wild oyster harvest is expected to be much smaller this year as regulators strive to protect the breeding stock.
From historic homesteaders to contemporary cattle ranchers, women have been a cornerstone of agriculture throughout history. The new head of the Virginia Farm Bureau Women's Committee will represent them well. The latest statistics from the Census of Agriculture notes that 1 million women are working America's lands. That is nearly a third of our nation's farmers. They have many roles in agriculture, including scientists, economists, foresters, veterinarians, and conservationists. Women are in the boardrooms and in the corner offices of international ag enterprises, and they are the owners and operators of many small family farms. These are women like Faye Hundley, who helps run her family farm, Cloverfield Farms, in Essex County, and was just elected the chairman of the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation Women's Committee. That makes her one of 15 farmers who set policy for the state's largest farm organization.
I didn't grow up on a farm. I married into farming, and I worked outside of the farm for many years, and just in the last 15 years, it's like farming's become my world, and I'm just engrossed in every part of it.
One of Hundley's roles as Women's Committee Chair will be to help coordinate hundreds of educational outreach programs each year in the Old Dominion, as well as raise funds for the Agriculture in the Classroom program. She represents the more than 21,000 women farming in Virginia. In fact, 32% of all Virginia farmers are women. The impact these women have on the state is huge. Farms run by women create more than $238 million for the state's economy.
We're third-generation farmers here, and my husband, his dad, his mom, his brother, the sister-in-law also works here, plus our children all work here on the farm, so we're blessed. With the farm and the size we are, there's always things to do. Just because we've gotten the crops in doesn't mean the farm shuts down. We do corn, soybeans, wheat, and barley. We also have hay.
The number of women farmers nationwide declined 2% in 2012 compared to 2007. There's no clear reason, but economists speculate the recession that began in 2008 hit many new farmers hard. While women were 14% of principal farm operators in the 2012 census, only 4% of women principal operators were younger than 35. Women who do find careers in agriculture, like Hundley, say that it's a life they wouldn't trade.
It's a totally different world than what I grew up in, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's just opened up so many opportunities, and I didn't realize you work so much with your family. I get to see my husband every day. You know, my father-in-law gave me the speech of, it's long hours, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week sometimes, and you know, that's what it takes.
To increase the odds of women like Hundley and hundreds of others in Virginia to succeed in farming, the USDA has created a Women in Agriculture Mentoring Network. It's designed for women to connect, share stories, and share experiences with fellow women in agriculture. For information on joining the network, you can email your questions to agwomenlead@usda.gov. That's going to do it for this edition of Real Virginia. We are so glad you could join us to celebrate the bounty Virginia has to offer. Whether it's in your home, your garden, or your landscape, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good week.
Chesapeake Bay.